The Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke Drivers. I've got 3 of the 4 drivers to test here today. Callaway never afraid to look at technology, to push us to the limits, to see if we can improve our golf. But are they any better than previous generations? And who are they actually designed for? Let's take a closer look. Now, I love it. Whenever I look at the marketing material for any golf clubs on the market, it always makes me chuckle when I look at their taglines, sweeter from every spot. And what Callaway are referring to is the world's first AI smart face, using basically thousands of golfers' data to look at where we get into impact with the driver. So talking about where the club is pointing, you know, what our deliveries are from in to out, out to in, our angles of attack, all those sorts of things, putting it into that AI computer and then giving us basically the perfect club face to deliver the perfect numbers from anywhere kind of across the face. Which sounds fantastic on paper, doesn't it? If you think about it, if I miss-hit this driver, I should maintain all the ball speed that I would normally lose, but also they're saying I should get fantastic dispersion with those off-centered strikes. And to be fair, I've been out here for most of the afternoon testing other drivers, and that has to be the best one of the day. Now, I hear what you're saying, everybody. Dan, tell me more about these sweet spots. Well, Callaway's saying that they've created micro deflectors on this AI club face, which allows you to optimize your spin and launch with every strike, therefore giving us the most distance, the most control with every shot that we hit. And when I think about micro deflector, I mean, I don't know what you guys are thinking about, but I'm thinking about 10-pin bowling, and I'm thinking about those rails that maybe pop up on the side. Not sure, but that's kind of what's going through my head. But yeah, that's what they're saying with this new AI smart face micro deflectors, which keep us on the straight and narrow. Frosty greens we got here today, -4, -5 overnight, which is rare for the English Riviera here at Churston, but at least we're out here playing. The other tech that I want to talk about when it comes to all 4 of these models is this 360-degree carbon chassis. Now, the idea of this is that they're trying to make it as lightweight as possible, saving around 15% from previous models in this particular technology. And the idea of this is if we can push that perimeter weighting around the outside of that driver just a little bit more, we can start to optimize that forgiveness, that MOI, stability, hitting more fairways. So going nicely with those micro deflectors, we've got this stability around the head, which enables us again to optimize our spin, optimize our launch, and hit more fairways. Now, that pretty much covers the tech that Callaway are saying about all 4 of their driver heads. But I wanted to dive a little bit deeper, and starting off with their max driver. Now, this is going to be for your average golfer, let's say, that's looking for a little bit of forgiveness, but ultimately distance as well. They've got this adjustable rail on the back of the driver, and what they're saying is that there's about 19 yards between that draw position into that fade position. So why not put it to the test? Let's start with draw. Now, I'm going to swing this as neutral as I possibly can, so not trying to put any particular shape on it. By putting that weight into that draw position, it will slow the heel down and quicken up the toe, which ultimately will allow me to, let's say, square the face up a little bit easier. For those players that want a bit more draw, you can dial that number in, or if you want to quieten down your slice or fade, you can pop it into that draw as well. Well, it's pretty straight, if I'm honest. Not seeing a great deal of movement on that one. And a bounce to the right when it lands. Possibly not the best hole to do this on, if I'm honest, but we'll try. Now going into fade. So pushing that weight into the toe of the club, which should slow the toe down, increase the heel. So for those people that are looking for something with maybe a little bit of curvature from left to right, or fade a bit more, they should be able to get that in it. Well, to be fair, I caught it a little bit closer to the heel that time, which has probably caused it to move maybe a little bit more than that fade, but it did move from left to right. Let's just go and pace the difference between those 2 shots, shall we? Well, this is ball number 2, so I've walked all the way down here, and then ball number 1 is actually up by the flag. So I'm going to go on the kind of angle of straight up, pace it out, and see if we get to 19. Well, what about that then? 23 yards between them. And actually it was good that the draw was left of the fade for me, being a right-handed golfer. But 23 yards, only 4 yards away from what Callaway say. Then you've got the triple diamond, which is actually their low spin option for players that want maybe something that spins just a little bit lower. Maybe they go at it quite hard. When you look at the bottom of this club, you've lost the rail now. That's gone off this particular model. And you've got 2 weight ports, one at the front, one at the back. You've got 14 gram weight at the back here that I've set it into. And you've got a 2 gram weight at the front. Now the idea of this is that you can move those weights around. So if you want something with a little bit more stability like I would need, and maybe a little bit more spin, then pushing that weight back is going to allow you to be able to achieve that. However, if you're somebody who's stronger than me, hits at it quite hard, high spinner, then pushing that weight forward is only going to help and bring that spin number down for you. Now, when you look at the profile of this driver, very, very much a smaller profile from the look down at the ball. And actually, where you were seeing, let's say, the little chevron that you had on the front of the Max version, you've lost that off that rail off the front there. So being slightly smaller in its profile and actually not having that chevron is something that I'm not necessarily dialing my eyes into. However, for lots of players out there, that chevron might be a bit of a distraction, and also that smaller profile, again, for those players that swing at it quite hard and want a little bit more workability, that smaller profile might just work better for you. Now this driver being a 450cc head compared to the other 2 models that we've got here to test today, which are both 460s, this one, like I said, is smaller in that profile, which does actually make it maybe a little less forgiving, but there is some tech in that face, as we talked about earlier, that's going to hopefully help that. But it's really for those players that want to try and get some shot shaping ability. So those players that like to work the ball both left to right, right to left, high and low, they're going to get that from probably this particular model. And then finally we've got the Max D AI Smoke driver. Now the first thing you're going to notice when you set up behind the ball with this driver is just now the chevron is popped back on the rail, just like we're seeing on the Max, enabling me to be able to position that golf ball in the centre part of this club. And I got to say, from a forgiveness point of view and a confidence point of view, that larger profile down by the ball is definitely giving me the confidence that I'm going to hit a few more fairways. However, the D side of it is a draw bias, and I am seeing a little bit of shape out of this driver. But with a shelf appeal point of view, with all 3 drivers, I'm seeing a much tidy, clean look, probably better than what I was seeing out of the old Paradigm driver from last year. I'm seeing something that's just a little bit more of a grey effect when I set up behind the ball, and I actually think from the bottom of the club, when you pick it up in the shop, you're going to see something with a little bit of class. However, talking about class, it's also important that you get optimal performance from your driver. So let's take a little closer look at how these clubs have been performing for me in the studio. So starting out with the AI Smoke Max to get us going with 152.9 mile an hour off the club face, launching it off the club face at 15.1, which is actually a little bit high considering I've got this set at 9.5. And then 2,600 revs on an average spin, which is actually pretty much spot on for what I would like to see when I'm out trying to compete, because I can feel like I can get a bit more control over the club. And then peaking out there at 42 yards high with an average carry of 258 yards. Then if we go to the Diamond version, so this is their low spin bombing driver, 151.2 mile an hour off the club face. Now what I would say is that I've historically have struggled with this diamond shape being slightly smaller in its profile, and therefore when I do mishit it, I then tend to lose a little bit of ball speed. So I'm seeing that a little bit down from what I'm seeing out of the Max. Launching it a little bit lower than the Max at 14.6, and then spin, look at that spin really drop off there at 2,111 revs on an average, and then peaking out a little bit lower than the Max at 37, but an average carry of 264 yards, so just picking up a little bit more yardage with that lower spin. Now when we look in the D version, so a little bit of draw bias, and you can see from these offline numbers that I wasn't struggling to lose that ball down the left-hand side. I had to really work it out the right to keep control of it. But actually, ball speed-wise, the same as what I'm getting out of the Max, 152.9, launching it pretty much the same at 14.7, and actually the spin is only, what, 65, 66 revs more than what I'm getting out of that max, so actually this driver is going to work really quite nicely for lots of players, peaking out 41 yards high and an average carry of 256 yards. So what do we think of how the Callaways have performed for me out here on the golf course and in the studio from the numbers? Well, I'm not really seeing a great deal of change from any of these companies at the moment. We are finding drivers now that are being able to be fit perfectly into so many different golfers' bags, and I think that's extremely important. They're pushing limits when it comes to MOI, which we've heard in many different stories from many different manufacturers. But I do like the head cover. I must say the head cover is actually really quite nice. But they do have a fourth line as well, which is their high launch version for those players that maybe need a little bit more help with slower swing speeds, want to hit it a bit higher, get a bit more control over the ball. They've got that club as well available. But I kind of got exactly what I expected to get, really. I've got a driver there that gives me that little bit of draw with that max D, with high MOI and stability. I've got a driver there that gives me super low spin, and I can dial those numbers in just quite nicely for players that want to hit that ball just that little bit harder and control their spin. And then I've got that max driver, which actually is going to fit into so many golfers' bags with that rail on the back, being able to dial in those numbers with your fitter, or even once you've been fitted when you change your golf swing and things like that. So I think Callaway have done a great job when it comes to the looks of these drivers. I think they're going to work so well on the shop floor. I think lots of people are going to want to pick them up. But have we seen massive moves forward from numbers? Not really, but you'd have to test it over the course of a season. But I'd like to hear what you think about the Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke drivers. Are they going to be for you? Down there in the comments. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. The day is coming to an end, so I'm heading in. I'll see you again on the next video.